McLaren has been a rising star in recent years, but that trend appears to have shifted in 2022, with the team failing to find their stride on multiple occasions this year. Indeed, when combined with the current driver market debacle involving Oscar Piastri, the Woking-based squad has been a disaster of late, despite huge promises that the new technical regulations would help propel them to the front. So, what are the McLaren team's problems, and how do they plan to solve them? Let's take a look. McLaren had been on the rise, climbing from P6 to P3 in the constructor standings in 2018 and 2020 respectively, but their ascension has slowed somewhat in 2022. They started the season in poor form, with both drivers finishing outside the points in Bahrain, and progress since then has been often one step forward, two steps back. McLaren's best result of the season is Lando Norris's P3 at Imola, but they are 93 points behind where they were at this point in 2021. One of their main issues is the inability to find a car setup that allows them to compete at every track on the calendar. Every car on the grid has its own personality, complete with flaws and advantages, and the McL36 is no exception. While the car's balance has been adequate, it appears to lack the overall downforce required to compete at the front. While it was initially a head-scratching predicament, the team eventually bought upgrades to alleviate the problem and saw a corresponding increase in performance. Despite this, star driver Lando Norris believes there is still a long way to go. Downforce. Just overall grip is quite a simple thing. There are quite a few times when the balance has been in a decent place, but if the balance is in a decent place but you are slow, then it is quite a simple thing that you need. There are not loads of problems. I guess it is one big problem that is very costly in the world of Formula 1 because all you need is downforce, and that is what we are struggling with at the minute. That's what we need to work on. The car has also been unpredictable and difficult to set up, with large performance swings from race to race. However, the car's problems stem from a deeper issue. McLaren has made no secret of the fact that it currently has fewer facilities than many of its Formula 1 competitors. At the team's Woking headquarters, construction is underway on a brand new simulator and wind tunnel, but it is still using its first simulator and relies on Toyota's wind tunnel in Cologne. F1's financial improvement measures, as well as the £185 million deal with a consortium of US investors at the end of 2020, have enabled McLaren to commit to major facility upgrades. But the timescale for the sim and tunnel projects is such that they won't have any impact on McLaren's F1 designs until the 2024 car. And when McLaren's technical director James Key talks about how the team's wind tunnel and simulator deficits limit the team's design work, it's no surprise that the team has had a relatively underwhelming start to F1's new era. In terms of the facilities, the difference they will make quite a big difference to us because we're working on probably the oldest simulator in the pit line. It's the original, albeit updated, and it's fantastic considering how well it's served the team for 20 years or whatever it is, but it's definitely Generation 0. And the wind tunnel, although it's been brilliant support from Toyota, it's well out of date compared to the state-of-the-art as well. So when both of those come online, and they're almost at a test phase now, so we're really beginning to see these projects coming together. The wind tunnel will allow us to do things we can't do at all at the moment, and that will give us a huge amount more information. Because there is so much secrecy surrounding teams' facilities, Key believes it is difficult for both fans and media to truly appreciate how much different disparities around design technologies such as simulators and wind tunnels can make. However, according to the director, the primary issue with the 2022 McLaren McL36 are its enormous drag and its sensitivity to high track temperatures. And despite the fact that he is clear that McLaren is being harmed by its facility disadvantages, he claims that those two concerns are the product of miscalculations over the 2022 rules. I think that's more just experiencing reference points, thinking, okay, I wasn't expecting that to be a problem, so let's go and work out what we missed with that. Everything will have that. Porpoising was an awkward thing for everyone, so every team has it and it's not unique to us. But in our case, the high track temperature thing, we could have just done a better job and thought more about it and set more ambitious targets. So that's not, with hindsight, difficult to understand. It's just, fair point, let's go and address that. The straight line speed thing was a surprise because there are methods of predicting where you should be, but of course, it's always relative. And with such fresh regulations and the biofuel content in the engine, all sorts of things to actually predict is incredibly difficult. So that's turned out to be a weakness. Other things have turned out to be a strength. Then there's the fact that one of their drivers, Daniel Ricciardo, is falling way below expectations, scoring only 16 of the team's 95 points thus far. And regardless of Daniel Ricciardo's future and McLaren's intention to drop him for 2023, the team still needs a stronger second half of the season if they are to achieve their goal of being the best of the rest. Given the frenetic pace of the first 13 races of the season, Ricciardo will undoubtedly benefit from the break. Given the depth of those struggles, expecting the August shutdown to automatically result in a return to form would be naive, something Ricciardo would be well aware of. What will make a difference is perseverance and striving for improvement. It's clear that there are aspects of the McLaren that he dislikes, but it's unarguable that Norris consistently gets more out of the car, one that he also claims doesn't suit his driving style. Ricciardo has long complained about the car's inconsistency, which not only lacks in the turn-in characteristics he needs to achieve the required rotation, but also appears to catch him out too often. There are some laps that I'll put together and it kinda makes sense, and I'm like, that was sweet, said Ricciardo in Hungary, but then a couple of laps later, I might drop 4/10 or something. It's still sometimes not the case that you start at 1, go to 2, get to 2, you know what I mean? It's not as simple as dot to dot. There are some hurdles before getting to the next dot, so that's a little complicated. With the wind, these cars are so sensitive that it probably does make it more hard to find that consistency. When it's on more of a nice edge, then there's more variables. That's where it starts to become that step more difficult. And given the uncertainty surrounding his future, he will find it even more difficult to recover. As a result, McLaren faces two challenges. First, they must put the Oscar Piastri saga to rest and confirm Lando Norris's 2023 teammate. Second, they must find a way to give Ricciardo the confidence he needs to recover and contribute to the team's success. While Ricciardo's struggles last year were primarily due to what he calls a peculiar McLaren, a view shared by Norris and predecessor Carlos Sainz, this year's difficulties are due to a combination of McLaren's weaknesses, generic characteristics of the 2022 cars, and the Australians' inability to adapt to them. None of these issues will go away in the second half of the year, though McLaren may be able to make some progress in alleviating them. So Ricciardo faces a long run-in that looks eerily similar to the first 13 races, in which he only managed 4 points finishes, with the August break serving as a much-needed temporary reprieve. And while the Piastri situation may need to be resolved in court, the Constructors' Championship will be decided on the track. McLaren trail Alpine by 4 points, and for a team who secured P3 not so long ago, a P5 finish would be a significant fall. With 9 races remaining, 4 points is nothing, but with Alpine appearing to have resolved some of the reliability issues that hampered Fernando Alonso's season earlier on, McLaren must get both drivers scoring points consistently if they are to secure P4 and the additional prize money that comes with it. With each poor performance in the 2022 season, the 2023 season has become increasingly important to McLaren's long-term goals. Perform well, and 2022 will be seen as a minor blip. However, continue in the same manner, and people will look back on this season as the beginning of the unraveling. But what are your thoughts? Will McLaren be able to overcome their difficulties and beat Alpine in the constructors' standings? What about Daniel Ricciardo? Will he be able to recover and finally secure some much-needed points for the team? Let us know in the comments section down below. And if you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. It helps us out a lot.